Hey guys, welcome back to another holiday card series watercolor tutorial video. If you've missed my last videos, I will include a playlist link up here in the corner as well as below so that you can check them all out as well as the ones from previous years. So for this one, I'm going to create a really pretty Christmassy foliage card with a blank square in the middle that's going to be the area where we're going to write our Christmas message. So I'm just using washi tape right now, and I'm trying to make a nice crisp rectangle in the center. I'm just making sure to line up my tape with each corner so that I don't have that ripped off edge showing. I thought after this you could also probably use like a address label or something like that that's a rectangle. Basically you just want to mask off that little area, and then you're just going to grab your paint. I'm using sap green here. Once again, all of the supplies that I use are always listed below in the description with links. So I'm using sap green, oxide of chromium, and various other greens to create all of the Christmassy greenery. I'm just creating some really simple leaves. And my goal here is to keep the transparency of the leaves so that I can layer more on top after these ones dry a little bit. We're going to be filling in this entire white area with Christmassy foliage. So I've just got some standard leaf shapes, and then I've got some sort of holly leaves as well as some spruce leaves. And I'm making sure to kind of rotate between the different green colors as I go. And it's totally fine if your colors sort of blend together while they're still wet. That's going to help add to the overall effect. I'm just making some berries here. The berries are really going to help bring the whole thing together and just add a little more contrast to the entire piece once we're finished. And I know I did speed this up quite a bit for you guys, but it's just because it's pretty simple to do. We're really just filling in that area, as I said, and creating some really basic leaf shapes. We will be going in with some additional layers and then some detail work at the end, so don't worry if your leaves and foliage doesn't look perfect to begin with. I do also mix some of my greens together, and I also add in a little bit of a blue shade, a little bit of a yellow shade, just to get those different variations of greens, because I think it just adds to the whole overall effect. It's just a lot nicer than having one solid green color. So as those first layers dry, we can kind of go in and start layering different elements and leaves on top of the other ones. Again, it doesn't matter if it's fully dry, because that sort of blending effect that you're gonna get is just gonna add to the watercolor feel. I am using my Wonder Forest watercolor brushes for this as usual, and right now this weekend only for Black Friday they are at 20% off, so definitely take advantage of that if you want some for yourself. Palettes are also back in stock, super limited quantities on those as well because they are handmade, they take a while. So click the link below if you want to Black Friday shop after you watch this. I'm just filling in some of those white areas again. As I said, I want to fill in as much of the white area as I can. And I am trying to make sure that all of the foliage comes out of the center, so it looks like it's sort of bursting out of that white part that we masked off in the center. I'm just using the very tip of my brush here and going over some of those dry areas, creating some really loose kind of outlines of leaves and stuff. And if you have some areas that are still looking a little empty, just decide where you want to put your next element, as I'm doing here. I have a white space right here, so I'm just going to go in and sort of just add a little really rough sort of leafy thing coming from behind. It doesn't have to be completely visible, and it really doesn't have to resemble anything if you're just kind of filling in some of the areas. I've sometimes found that just by using really loose brush strokes, you can kind of just mimic that leafy effect. I should also let you guys know that my watercolor workshop is 50% off this weekend only as well. Once again, all of those links are going to be below. I just thought I would mention it as I'm creating these holiday cards. I've used washi tape to hold down this card, and it hasn't been sticking very well onto the board. So usually I would recommend using a painter's tape, and just be careful when you pull off the tape. Always pull from the outside, so pulling away from the card itself as you peel it off. I get asked a lot what kind of tape I use, and normally it's just plain old green painter's tape. So that definitely is a little bit less adhesive than a masking tape, but a little more adhesive than a washi tape. And you can literally just pick that up at a dollar store. It's gonna work the same. I really think the hardest part of this card is just deciding where to put everything and how to fit everything in. I know that's always what I struggle with when I'm doing really loose work, because I usually like to have it planned out with a sketch or something, but when I'm just kind of going by the seat of my pants, I find it a little bit difficult. Let me know in the comments if you're the same as me, or if you work better when something's a looser style. So I've let this dry completely now. I did use my hairdryer to speed it up a little bit. I'm using a white gouache, and I'm just gonna go in and create some little white berries to go with the little red berries, and it's gonna add a little bit more interest to the piece as well. I'm just placing them in groups of 3 and 4, just wherever I think it needs a little extra dimension. You can also use a gel pen for this, a paint pen, acrylic paint, just anything more opaque than white watercolor. And then using the tip of my brush, I'm gonna go in and add a little bit of spining detail to some of the leaves as well. And to finish with the white, I'll just add little highlights to each of the red berries. Now I want to mix up a bit of a darker green, and I'm just going to go in and add some of those stripy details to a couple of those leaves as well, just to help finish them off a little bit. I also wanted to correct this red area a little bit, so I just went over it with a little bit of green, just because the red berries bled a little more than I would like them to. And finally, with black, I'm just adding little dots to the tops of each of the berries to finish them off as well. And once the white ones are dry, I do the exact same thing to those. Finally, I can go in and add stems to the white berries because we don't want them just floating in space. So I'm just using a darker green and really lightly adding in some stems. So now it is time, the exciting part. I'm going to peel off that rectangle to reveal the crisp white paper underneath. And we have a perfect little area to write our Happy Holidays message. So to do the text on this card, I'm just using a black calligraphy style pen, and I've penciled in where I want the words to go. It's always a good idea before you go in with your final marking. So I'm just following those outlines that I made. And then I'll go in and just thicken up the lines a little bit, because sometimes with cold pressed paper, you sort of get little texture details. Sometimes the marker doesn't fully come in contact with all of the paper. So I just like to go over and make sure it's nice and solid. And then when that's dry, I'll just erase all of the pencil lines. Now for the big reveal, I'm gonna take off the masking tape that I had holding everything down, and you'll be able to see the final card. And I love how this looks with the white paper outlines and that white area in the center. I just think it looks so cool with the foliage sort of coming out from under those. So here is our finished card. I hope that you guys like this one. If you do try it, definitely tag me on Instagram. Let me know below what you would like to see next. Please like the video if you liked it because it does help out the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.